Blood Warlock, Succubus Partner in the Apocalypse. Chapter 9, Fast and Scary. Special Forces Soldier? Xietain's eyes lit up when he saw the name of the skill. After seeing the vague but concise information available on the skill scroll, his gaze became even brighter. Currently, Xietain was countless times more powerful than any human being before the world changed. His strength had reached 55 points thanks to the Xianyuan sword and the full coat that he had just obtained. His agility had reached 69 points and the rest of his stats were also at least twice that of an ordinary person. However, although he could currently dominate his enemies by overwhelming them due to his stats, treasures acquired, and his blood manipulation skill, Xietain was very clear that if he faced an enemy on equal terms with him but with real combat experience, the one who would be unlucky and meet a fatal fate would probably be him. What Xietain lacked the most at this moment was combat experience, control of different martial arts, etc. But with the skill scroll in his hands, this problem could be solved immediately. He only needed to wish for it and he would immediately become an experienced person as an elite soldier with years of training and battle experience. However, Xietain hesitated. Unclassified skill, he muttered under his breath. Although he didn't know how the level of skills and their rankings worked, Xietain, who obtained a skill ranked as first-order skill, couldn't help but feel that the skill Special Forces Soldier wasn't that good in the long run. Before he could think any further, the beautiful and charming Lilith interrupted him with a sweet smile. "You don't need to worry. Although in fact, in the long run that skill might not be so good, it's a passive skill." Listening to her, Xietain's eyes shone brightly as he realized that the word passive was the key in this matter. Even after facing so many dangers, Xietain had not forgotten about the warning he received when he decided to learn his blood manipulation skill. That warning was reminding him that he could only learn 4 more external skills. External active skills are those skills that need mana movement to function and that you didn't learn on your own throughout your life. Lilith explained patiently. Before, you were just a normal human with no training and yet, nevertheless, you were able to learn a terrifying skill in just a few seconds. Xietain did not dare to miss any words and focused all his attention on her. Lilith continued, "Although it might be fine now, if you learn too many external active skills, in the long run your brain will be overloaded by all the accumulated information and your body cannot support such a stress. That's precisely why you can only learn 5 active ones at first. I'll explain more about this when we have time, as I prefer not to rush things. However, you don't need to worry at all. The passive skills you can learn through skill scrolls are endless." That was all he needed to hear. Xietain looked at Lilith with a rare smile and slowly said, "You really are my lucky demon, Lilith." Without waiting for a reply and without seeing her reaction, he closed his eyes and wished to learn the contents of the scroll in his hands. The scroll in his hands turned into countless particles of light that flowed into his body. In the depths of his soul, a bronze-colored rune appeared with countless engravings on it. Xietain immediately felt a slight prickling in his mind that instead of being painful, was uncomfortable. Martial arts of self-defense, fighting skills to kill the opponent in the shortest amount of time possible depending on the circumstances, control over bladed weapons, knowledge about firearms as well as the correct way such weapons worked and the optimal way to use them. So much information flooded Xietain's brain, it was so much information that for several seconds his mind went blank, not knowing how to react. He looked at his hands in disbelief and couldn't help but mutter, "That's how strong the elite soldiers were before the world changed." At this moment, only he himself knew how horrible his strength had become. His stats had not changed at all, but Xietain was confident that if he met the great fast mantis again, he could finish it off in less than 3 seconds even without using his blood manipulation skill. In fact, Xietain did not know that even his gaze had changed. His eyes had become sharper and more piercing, like a sheathed blade waiting for the moment to show its lethality to the world. "Well, you gained the combat experience of the best elite soldiers in the history of your world, so it's understandable that your strength took a big step forward." Lilith smiled. Her voice was extremely pleasant to listen to. "Although you were strong by human standards before, your combat experience was simply too lacking. Now, you can barely consider yourself a novice." Xietain looked at her doubtfully. "A novice?" He didn't think so. Lilith looked at him with a smile that didn't seem very friendly and said slowly, "In your world, you could consider yourself an elite among humans. But that is limited to your world. There are countless other worlds with countless other fighters and different cultures. In my eyes, you are similar to a baby just learning to walk. In the end, Xietain raised both hands in surrender and his emotion cooled. Although being proud and arrogant was good, Lilith was right. Currently, he had merely just begun to take his first steps. Too much arrogance or confidence could end up killing him, and he definitely had no intention of dying. Lilith also noticed that Xietain had put his feet back on the earth and could not help but smile. If he became too proud just because of something so small, it would be too disappointing for her. Fortunately, it didn't turn out to be like that. Xietain looked at the metal door in front of him. He could still hear the frenzied banging of the creatures inside, trying to forcefully break down the door. If the floor gets too stained, it will be a headache to clean it up later. Xietain said casually and opened the door without even hesitation. Immediately, like wild beasts released from their confinement, zombies staggered out from inside the cafeteria. Their hands trying to capture their target as quickly as possible, and their blood-stained faces gave them an extremely horrible appearance. Xietain did not even unsheath his sword. He took a big step forward and raised his right foot, directly striking the first zombie in the throat. The sound of bones breaking into countless pieces was extremely scary, and anyone who heard it would undoubtedly be shocked beyond what any words could describe. The struck zombie flew several meters away, hitting the zombies behind it in the process. When it hit the floor, it was no longer moving. The zombie was still alive since the brain was intact. However, Xietan's kick had destroyed the jaw and crushed the upper bones of the spine. Therefore, although its brain still functioned, it could no longer use its mouth to bite, nor could it move its hands or feet. The zombie was no different from any other zombie killed by Xietain before. No. If there was a difference, there was no blood flowing like water from a fountain. In total, there were more than 15 zombies inside the cafeteria. With almost 70 agility points, Xietan's body was constantly flashing, appearing and disappearing amidst the group of zombies. The sound of bones breaking into pieces along with the sound of the zombies' bodies falling to the ground after being hit was extremely clear in the place. Sometimes he used his fists, sometimes he used his palm or the side of his hands, his feet, his knees, and sometimes he used his elbows. Xietan's entire body had become an extremely robust, sharp, and formidable weapon capable of claiming the life of any enemy. Less than 10 seconds later, all 15 zombies lay on the ground, alive, but no different from those who were actually dead. Some had all 4 limbs broken, others had their jaws snapped and their spines separated into countless pieces, and the heads of others had been turned at an impossible angle, disconnecting the brain from the rest of the body. Xietan's expression stayed impassive at the horrifying sight. With his blood manipulation skill, coupled with the experience of humanity's strongest elites, his heart could no longer be shaken by such a thing. However, the sound of bones breaking, the sound of bodies hitting the walls and tables, naturally attracted the attention of other people. Shangguan Bingshui, Chen He, and Liang Peng appeared outside the cafeteria. They had obviously come to see what was going on after hearing the commotion. Chen He, who was holding his bow and an arrow ready to be shot at any moment, could not help but suck in a breath of fresh air when he saw the miserable condition of the corpses on the ground. Even the usually wild and strong Liang Peng had a distinct change of expression. He looked at Xietain standing amidst the corpses and could not help but mutter, "Is he still human or not?" On the other hand, Shangguan Bingshui's beautiful but cold face had slight frown. Her cold gaze switched back and forth between Xietain and the zombies on the ground. She had noticed that, apart from the miserable condition their bodies were in, there were no bleeding wounds there, even the creatures' heads were practically intact.